Good morning. I'm going to be reading chapter 25 of The Mighty Miss Malone. Starts on page 224, called Back on the Road. I ran towards the orange glow right in front of our shack. The fire had grown much larger. Something flew through the air and landed in the middle of the flames. The fire whooshed and sparks flew up like a swarm of fireflies and flickered in the dark sky. A big-boned white man was throwing the sides of people's homes into the fire. Something that looked like a wildfire, flapping pack of pigeons flew straight into the sky, then landed in the fire. It was Miss Stew's Reader's Digest. I looked over toward our place. The blue gingham curtain was still hanging on. I started toward the shack to see if Mother was inside, and then stopped at gunshots banged out twice more. I ducked. A white man on the other side of the fire was pointing down with a gun and shooting. He reached his gun down into a big stew kettle and fired. It was ruining it, so now no one could use it. I pushed the curtain aside. For the second time, Mother was putting everything back in the blanket. She already bundled and tied the one that I'd carry. Thank goodness you're back. Move quickly. I might be able to get us back into Flint. Might? Can't we just take the road there? The police said no one's to go into Flint. They'll block all the ways into the city. Mother tied the four corners of her blanket, and the bundle clanged as she threw it over her shoulder. She gave me a tired smile. Okay, Miss Malone, once more into the breach. I picked up my bundle and slung it over my shoulder. Mother had made mine heavy as hers. We'll take turns with the big one, I said. We hugged. Sweetheart, I'm so glad you're here for me to lean on. I held the gingham curtain aside, and once Mother was out, I looked into the place that had been our home for the past months. Now that we didn't know where we were going next, this raggedy hut seemed pretty wonderful. I held the curtain up. Will they throw something this beautiful into the fire? Deza, let's go. I promise one day I'll get yards of store-bought gingham and make you a dress. Outside, a big white man with a tired voice was saying over and over, Keep up that road there, and if you don't want no trouble, don't come back. We followed the crowd away from the fire. We'd only been walked for a few minutes when Mother steered me to the side of the road. Deza, I left my wedding ring in the shack. Since we left Gary, Mother's band had gotten so big that it was slipping off her finger at work. She put it on a string and wore it around her neck, because she's losing weight. I pointed. No, the string is right around your neck. Her hand flew to her throat. Oh no, I took the ring off the string last week. Mother was acting odder all the time. I put my bundle down. I'll be right back. No, I'll get it. I know exactly where it is. Don't leave this spot no matter what. I watched as she ran toward one of the policemen. My stomach knotted when he raised his club and jabbed his hand toward the road. Oh, please, please. Mother pointed back at me and kept talking. Stay back, Mother. Don't get too close. He kept his club raised and with his other hand jabbed at the road again. Please, please. Mother kept talking, and finally the cop brought the club down to his side. Mother headed into the woods to where the shanty town was slowly being turned to ashes. I sat on the side of the road and watched our neighbors walk away. They were mostly women with children tied to their backs or hanging onto their clothes or trailing behind like tired little ducklings. A few old men hobbled along with the group. Anyone who was strong enough to work was on the train with Jimmy. No one complained. This was just the way it was. If somebody came along and saw us walking, they'd mistake us for a very quiet parade instead of what we really were, a river of people who didn't know what city we'd be in tomorrow, or what we'd be eating, or even where somebody would let us stop and rest. The only way someone might suspect something was wrong was because of the fresh ones. I had understood what the hobo with the beautiful beard had meant when he said we were fresh, but now I got it. There weren't a lot of them, but all the fresh ones, young and old, had a certain look and expression that anyone who's been on the road for a while has scrubbed off their face. It wasn't like they were worried or feeling sorry for themselves. They had a look of surprise, like they couldn't believe what had happened. You can't know the feeling unless you've had it. One day you're living in your own home, and then it seems like with no warning, the next day you're carrying everything you own in a blanket or a sack or a ratty suitcase while being shooed from one place to another like a fly. Little Stu, you all right? Can we help you carry something? A white man and his son had come over to me. No, thank you. My mother had to run back. I'll be along in a minute. The man said, "You sure? Camden here is strong as an ox." The boy, who looked about 6 years old, made a muscle with his right arm. "Wanna see?" I laughed. "Thank you, Camden, but we're okay." He kept his fist balled. "You sure you don't want to see?" He looked like he'd explode if I didn't feel his muscle. I squeezed his skinny arm. "Wow. With muscles like you could probably lift a whole automobile over your head." He smiled. "Well, maybe I could get the front wheels off the ground." "Thanks, Camden." They headed back down the road. In the next couple of minutes, 5 other people stopped and asked the same thing. Mother finally came back. I said, "Did you get it?" She looked like she had no idea what I was talking about. "Your ring." She touched her throat. "Yes, that was close." I was starting to worry about her. We fell in line with other people. We walked for a half hour when the road split into 2 directions. People started dividing into 2 groups. There were hugs, pats on the backs, and even tears as they said goodbye. You gotta think, they've been family for a long time. Most of the white people started down the road leading south. Most of the black people walked north. Someone told Mother there might be work in Saginaw, Michigan, which is geologically located about 20 miles north of Flint. But Mother steered us south. "We've got to get back into Flint. I have to work and you have to go to school." "But how will we get past the—" "I don't know, Deza. But where there's a will, there's a way." A way meant we did a whole night of walking to circle the city. It was very late when we knocked on the door of one of the women Mother worked with. Even though we woke her up, Mrs. Brand said we could sleep on the floor of one of the 2 rooms she shared with her family. When I woke up the next morning, Mother had already gone to her first job. I was surprised. I was so tired the night before that I hadn't seen how many people were in the room. I felt terrible that we'd taken over the little bit of space that was left. I stepped over 3 of them and headed toward the tiny kitchen. "Good morning, Mrs. Brand." "Morning, Deza. You've got another hour before you need to get up for school." "Yes, ma'am, but I thought I could help you." "Thank you, dear. You can get out back and get some wood if you don't mind." "How much do we need?" "Just enough for the stove. We got some grits and greens all hotting up for breakfast." The house started waking up and more people walked by the kitchen on the way to the outhouse. All but 2 of them were kids. I missed Jamie already, but I couldn't let myself worry about him or Father. That made 2 of them I wouldn't think about. When it was time to go to school, Mrs. Brand said, "Your mother told me you're going to come here after school. She won't come back between jobs. She's going to look for a room to rent. She knows you 2 are welcome here as long as you need." "Thank you, ma'am." Me and one of the big girls, Annalise, walked the youngest kids to Clark Elementary School. Then we went to Whittier Junior High. Mother and Mrs. Brand were sitting on the front porch when I got home. Mother was smiling. I wonder what she's smiling about. She dangled 2 keys. "Deza, we've got a place. It's just 1 room, but it's right between Whittier and downtown. No more half-hour walks for us, my dear." "What about the post office?" "It's not far at all. You can check every day." What a happy ending to that story. They actually have a room of their own. Let's see what happens in 26. Bye.